Hey guys, now that stage 4 restrictions have eased, we're allowed to come back into the shop. So we thought today we'd actually give you a rundown of the last few years of bike development. Alright, so this is the first frame that we ever welded up. From what you can see, it's pretty rough. When we did this, we didn't even know how wide a seat needed to be, but we actually hand bent all these tubes. It's all a chromoly frame. You'll see from the welds that we didn't really understand that you needed an inert gas when you are welding. We keep this as kind of like an interesting point in history where this is where we started from, and we kind of look back on it and remind ourselves how far we've come. So yeah, it's cool. Now the purpose of this frame wasn't to actually go on a bike, it was for our first ever mock-up. So we wanted to mock up what a bike frame might look like and try and work out what ergonomic dimensions we might need, because we had no idea. This was back in late 2015, early 2016 that we did this. So yeah, that's the old frame that we've got. All right, so this is the 2016 bike that we built. The frame that you can see here and the swing arm was actually all hand bent and welded by us. It was welded with the help of a gentleman named Neil Fuster. So Neil, thank you so much for your help and for your continual help. The rims and the front end all came off a ZX-10R that we picked up from the wreckers quite cheaply. The tires are old secondhand tires. Safe to say this bike never made it to the road because it was the first time we'd ever really fabricated a full bike before. Yeah, it's really nice to have this in the shop and remind us of the second stage. So then we had the 2018 bike. So the really cool thing about the 2018 bike is this is the first bike that ever made it to the road. So I personally rode this around the streets of Melbourne, all legally, of course. The first thing is the swing arm was off my last daily bike. I had a little baby Hornet, a Honda CB250F 1996. So I made the decision to part that and use it in this process. You can see that this is a drastic redesign from the 2016 bike, the red one that we showed you. In welding up that frame, we learned that it had to be a lot simpler for production. We had to simplify and make our lives as easy as possible. That's when we came up with the backbone design through 2019 and even in the 2020 bike. So we quite like that. So the Powertrain is what we call the collection of batteries, motor controller and motor and all the electronics. So they all sit in here. The motor is a peak 40 kilowatt motor, so relatively baby in power to what we're doing now. And it worked, and we quickly learned that the build quality of these wasn't where we wanted it, and the power delivery and the power capability wasn't what we wanted either. So in the process of building this bike, we actually realized we need to develop our own motor and we need to develop our electronics much more. Now the bodywork is obviously a key different point from the last bike that we built in 2016. The cluster is a GPS cluster. So it's literally a car GPS that we've stuck on there and some switches that we used when we were putting it all together. As the team that work on this every day, we look at it and we see so many flaws, but when you take a step back and look at it, we really appreciate like all the work that we put into it. And yeah, a lot of people still really like the design, and a lot of people really like this feature of the leather on the tank, and a lot of customers have asked for this on the newer bikes too. So yeah, no, we love it. That's when I'll jump onto the 2019 bike. So this bike had so many changes on it. We had developed so many different and new things on the bike, and being down in the detail, they are completely different machines. We've re-engineered this thing from the ground up. In terms of the front end, meaning the forks, the rims and things like that, we used a MV F3 2013 bike that we parted out. Triple assembly and the nut. I can't remember exactly which bike we used for the nut and the center stem for the steering assembly. I have a feeling it might have been an R6 one that we chopped up in the workshop. The dash itself was the first time we ever had our own proprietary dash hardware. You'll notice that the tank is possibly a little bit more uniform than the last one. And this is the first time we actually had a professional engineer do a surface geometry, which is a discipline in its own, and he did a fantastic job. And so this again was hand-formed aluminium, but this time instead of an MDF skeleton frame, they had a fully machined styrofoam mold to hand form around, so it's a lot more accurate. Now we'll move on to the seat. On this particular prototype, we decided to go with roux leather because, you know, being an Australian company and all, we thought, and we really like the color of the roux leather as well. The swing arm itself, so this was the first time we've ever had a single-sided swing arm. This was done by us, engineered by us. We found a supplier that would be able to support us with it. On this particular bike, we've got a Gates belt and pulley, and you'll see that the motor casing actually fits into the powertrain enclosure. So it's a lot more integrated than 2018. So the motor casing and the custom design, because we designed it in-house, it enabled us to bolt the backbone to the motor. Sadly, this bike never made it to the road, and there's a number of reasons why. We'd done all the engineering that we could given the time. Mechanically, it was ready to go. We had some challenges on the electronic side of things, specifically around the motor. We've solved those now, and we basically, we realized that we weren't going to be able to fix this. We delved straight into developing the next bike, which again, we're launching in November, and we're super excited to show everyone. So that's the history of bike development and what we've done over the last 4 years. So thank you all for tuning in. Please give our Instagram a follow, our Facebook a like, and YouTube a subscribe. And we look forward to seeing you in November. Thank you. Alright, so